KBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back, and it is Good Morning Uganda Extra, an extension of Good Morning Uganda. Welcome back from sports with the man himself, Ruben Pima Kasera Chibirango. It's now time we also look at another area of national concern. Now they want to draw our interest to Karamoja sub-region, which has been a beehive of a number of activities. But before that, in case you've just joined, I'm Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono. And with me, a distinguished gentleman from two organizations that have done a lot of work in Karamoja in areas of socio-economic transformation of this particular part. And that is the Adventist Development and Relief Agency, ADRA, and also that is the Karamoja Integrated Development Program, which is KIDEP. I have gentlemen from these organizations that are aiming at ensuring that Karamoja we have not only peace, but we fight low levels of education, we fight poverty, we fight gross abuse of child rights in all spheres. And with me on set is George William Chiberu, who happens to be the program manager ADRA, that is Northern Karamoja. George, you're most welcome to our studios.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
And on my extreme end, I have that is James Peter Oluport, who happens to be the executive director, that is KIDEP. You're most welcome to our studios.
Thank you. In Karamoja we say Mata. That's a greeting.
That's a greeting.
You also say Mata.
Mata. Oh, in Uganda that would have a connection with milk. Mata. So if you tell me Mata, I'll maybe run to get you milk in that. But it's very interesting. To begin with you, James, I'm so honored to have, would I use the right word, is Karamojong on set with me this morning.
Yes,
let's begin by understanding, when you talk about Karamoja, even before we go into this serious discussion, create a picture for a person watching this show who has never been in Karamoja, this particular part, before even we go into these rights, that and that. You're born there, you're so much there, here now you're in an organization that fronts change in Karamoja.
Thank you so much. Actually, I come from Teso, but my forefathers come from Karamoja, so we are related. When we mention Karamoja, Karamoja is in the northeast of Uganda, and it's the poorest region and has been dogged with a lot of underdevelopment right from colonial times and even subsequent governments. I think with some stabilization, I would say there is some development now coming up thanks to the efforts of the present government in bringing, first of all, security and also development partners coming into, but they are very disadvantaged because much of Karamoja is semi-arid, and you know they are cattle keepers and also but I mean also do some little bit of livelihood subsistence agriculture, but the weather vagaries always adversely affect much of our efforts in agriculture, leaving the population to rely on only livestock, which is also a very hot cake for the raiders. So we are really very disadvantaged, marginalized, I should say, and I should even say that not much has really been achieved, although much has been done. And I would invite you so that when you come there, we greet you, Mata, you want milk, we shall give you milk. But on condition you drink mixed with blood, sort of welcome.
Milk mixed with blood. Yeah. Oh, what an experience that would be for my tummy. But anyway, we have now two organizations here. When we talk about ADRA, this is the Adventist Development and Relief Agency. How do you get involved in Karamoja?
Yeah. When you look at the organization ADRA, first of all, it is built on three change dimensions. One is development, another one is relief, and another one is health and education. ADRA has been in Karamoja for over 25 years. And they got into the region as implementing partners of World Food Program. And after implementing for World Food Program for a period of 5-6 years, they started evaluating and reflecting on their work, which necessitated to have an element of development into the relief. And that's how ADRA has been evolving in the region. Currently, we are having a big thrust in advocacy, education, and livelihood. But we started in Karamoja doing relief, implementing on behalf of World Food Program. Yes.
This brings me to KIDEP. KIDEP, how do you get to work along with ADRA? What is the unifying factor? Because much as we talk about development, I'm also so much interested with the development partners and the interest in these regions.
Thank you so much. I think the year was 2017. ADRA did an assessment of local partners with the aim of identifying those they can partner with, build their capacity so that as they phase out, the local partners will continue implementing for sustainability. So it was a thorough exercise, and I'm sure they visited many organizations, but eventually they picked up on us. And then also there are a lot of commonalities between us. One, we have faith-based background. And of course, that also binds us, binds us better. That's how we came to work with ADRA.
And why do you specialize in this region? Because, you know, there's a beehive of activities in Karamoja. And I think it's one of the home to a number of development partners and NGOs. There are thousands in Karamoja. That's why when you say that, when you look at development, vis-a-vis what I see there, the last time I was in Karamoja, I think it was in 2011.
You've taken now.
Yeah, I've taken some time. By then I was going for ministry with some church. But one thing I noticed, NGOs were like, maybe now we're in the grasshopper season. That is what you would see in Karamoja. So which areas are you basically dealing with to cause this social transformation that we're going to be discussing?
One is child protection, education, and their welfare. Two is agricultural livelihoods. Three, basic health. And then we are not so much, although it's also one of our core intervention areas, good governance, accountability, social accountability. Yeah.
Okay.
Those are our core intervention areas. And of course, we mainstream others like HIV, AIDS. We also have gender responsiveness as one of our areas, which we have core interventions. And that is what we are trying to do in Karamoja. But if 2011, you have just mentioned, you come back. I think it will be a transformed Karamoja, because now we have tarmac, which will bring you right from Soroti up to Moroto. We now have power on the grid power there. No longer the generator that used to run from 7 to 11 at night. Yeah, so there's a little bit of transformation. You can drive any time of the day or the night, especially along that main road. Yeah, there's a lot.
Definitely. Now that I have you people, it is a red, it's a green ticket for me. I hope I'll be visiting Karamoja. So people of Karamoja, anytime from now, I'll be visiting, and I'll be promoting domestic tourism as well when I'm in this particular area. So having known areas of operation, let's now begin looking at these problems that are affecting this region. And I'm very passionate about children. So I want to begin with the issue of street children. Most so in the district of Kotido. It is general knowledge for everybody that this is a problem that is increasing in Uganda. All streets, first it was Kampala, yes, I was driving through Machindi, the traffic lights, I saw this Karamoja girls, even here you've reached. So how or what are you doing in the areas of your concern to handle this problem of street children in Karamoja?
Okay. Thank you very much. And to take you a little bit back, you did ask a very interesting question, which is very important for our viewers. What links us? What is common between us and KIDEP? you find that ADRA is a faith-based organization, and KIDEP is also built on that grid. They are faith-based. But two, they are local, it is a local NGO. Our aim, ADRA has been implementing action for social change in a span of 9 years. And we are well aware that after 9 years, we may not be in Karamoja as ADRA. That's why we needed vibrant local NGOs which can take up the work of action for social change, ADRA. Currently, we have 2 vibrant local NGOs who are implementing with us. It is KIDEP, which is Karamoja Integrated Development, and Karamoja Development Forum. Those are at a level whereby we can give them our interventions and they propel them through. Now, we are having the issue of discussion focus area, the street children. When you talk of street children, in Karamoja there, they know that it is in a park, which is exporting, isn't it? Exporting street children to Kampala and other towns. But there is a new trend in Kotido. Kotido is having local street children in Kotido. And the rate at which it is coming up is quite, worrying. In 2019, we had cases of 48 street children being involved in pet theft and all that. At first we thought it was something which will go. And 2020, the case propelled, they advanced to reach the level of going into the roofs of people's houses. They take solar panels, they snatch things on the street. And 2020, we are working with religious institutions, and in Kotido, the Catholic Church has been very vibrant. They decided to take up the intervention of writing proposals to ADRA, and we funded them to see that they settle this issue of street children. In 2021, April, they managed to reunite 48 street children to their parents. And these parents are the worshippers of that very church. It is very interesting that they can organize agape meals. They call these street children, they have a meal with them, and they ask them, what is the cause? Why are they running out? Why are they running away from their homes to stay on streets? Because you cannot imagine 14, 15, 16, and some 8 years old boys. They sleep on verandas in Kotido. You find them, sleeping inside these, there is shelters they make for videos. But because of COVID and lockdown, they are no longer functional. They are like sort of abandoned. Therefore, they have turned them to their homes. Then one asks, why is it that they leave their home too? One of the areas they have mentioned, and it is coming out so strongly, is they don't have food at home.
So there is food on the streets?
What they do?
Because for Kotido's case, it is unique in a manner that unlike where we see in a park where these are coming to Kampala. These are in Kotido.
Exactly.
And so if there is no food home, and with the circumstances we know of Karamoja, then how is food on the streets?
Now, in Karamoja, and most especially in Kotido, every Tuesday, there is trucks bringing in fresh supplies to the region, and specifically in Kotido. They may not stop in a beam, not in a Muria, but it is straight to Kotido. And people come from Kabongo, from Abimu to buy, and from Kotido. Now these boys, they come and offload. They do the sorting of cereals within the market, and it is very easy for them to scavenge around and get food. That is very funny, but it is true. Therefore, Kotido becomes a hub for easy getting of, casual labor, food, and all that. And if they plan to, I want to use this phrase, though I don't want to use it. If they plan to steal it is in a Kotido you can find something easy to steal. You know, therefore it becomes an attractive area for people, for street children. Now, the Catholic Church has also found out that, shared with us, the violence at home, because of those very activities going on within Kotido, parents give their children assignments to do and do the hawking of items. They can be boiled eggs, they can be these, yes, those things.
Tomatoes.
And tomatoes. When they come on street to sell, many decide to stay and make their street, that street their home. But also when they don't sell, when it is a bad day, they report. When they go home to report that, they are punished. Therefore, they decide not to go back home. And then you find that it is quite a complex issue. You cannot associate it only to domestic violence. You associate it to food, you associate it to the whole ecosystem of the home, and it is a big problem currently.
Well, you've talked about one of the issues being violence. Yes. Karamoja is one of the areas that experiences a lot of cases of gender-based violence. And according to research I've been reading through, I see that child marriages is one of the issues that is escalating this. Peter, when you look at this issue, first you want to understand, yes, is there a huge percentage in terms of child marriages in this area? Then how best can we address this problem, or what are you doing? Because a child who goes in marriage before the right age is more vulnerable by all means. And now when we talk about this also being a problem to why we are seeing street children within Kotido, how best can we handle this issue that is seeming to be escalating and out of management?
Thank you so much. First of all, I often feel very uncomfortable when these children are called street children. It looks like we are condemning them, that is where they belong. Sometimes I feel a little bit more comfortable referring to them as children living on the streets.
Okay.
Yeah. One, there are push and pull factors that contribute to the exodus of these children from their homes. To be honest, like I told you, Karamoja is a very disadvantaged region in terms of resources, development, all those kind of things. So, two, they also have their own traditions and cultures which are inherent, and in fact, it's very hard to change. Because, one, for example, if it was not for the advent of modern civilization, the word rape would not be a crime in Karamoja, because that's some form of courtship. So when we look at children leaving their homes or even getting into early marriages, I want to take you to remind ourselves that nobody in their normal senses, if all factors were favorable, would allow their children to leave home and come to the streets to an uncertainty, because even in the streets they are vulnerable. Maybe other gangs can rape the girls, infect them with HIV, STDs, all those kind of things. But the conditions that force their parents to surrender their children at home to come to the streets are what we are not realizing, or what we are not addressing effectively. Because that's the only way that they can survive. Like he mentioned, when they come here, you go to Kisenyi there, you'll find them sorting beans which spill over from trucks. Today they get 1 cup, tomorrow 3 cups, eventually it fills a bag, they send home. And the family has something to eat. Now at home you don't have something to give the family, and you are telling them that bring those children back home. You find it, for them, they look at it as a little bit awkward. Give us something to eat and we shall bring back our children. So when we talk of like violence, first of all, one.
But that was said, sorry to interject.
Please.
When you look at Karamoja sub-region, the number of districts, to the best of my knowledge, it is not all the entire Karamoja. The issue of street kids, you find that a specific district, I think this is Napak.
Napak, yes.
Yeah? Why of all these other districts that make up Karamoja? You know, yet sometimes you see that semi-arid, all these situations you're talking about, culture, even happen in these other districts.
Yeah, in Napak, in fact, for your information, Napak contains some of the most agricultural arable land in the region. But there are also sub-counties like Matany and Lopei, which are real arid. If they don't have enough rainfall, the households harvest absolutely nothing. And sometimes that is the push factor. But then the pull factor is also that those children who come to live in the streets here, once they beg, once they get their cereals, collect them and possibly they sell, when they come back home, their complexion is changed. They are exposed to another world, they dress smarter, they put on modern cosmetics, and that one is also an allure which also attracts others to come. That's what I would call a pull factors. And of course this one will say, no, let's go to the streets, there's some easy life there. So those are some of the factors that contribute to, first of all, the living of these children, their homes. And then of course when you talk of gender-based violence, that's also a factor, because one, sometimes some of these children are products of broken marriages. And there's always a tendency for men, when they get another woman, they tend to neglect the children of the previous woman, and eventually they are forced to find out how they can fend for themselves. And invariably, they end up living their district. But like you have mentioned, it's Napak which has the highest number. And of Napak, it is not all of Napak actually, but mostly those areas where. But next time you come, please let us know so that we can take you on a visit round. Because when we talk about Karamoja, I wish you could come in February or March, because you'd find that you don't even see any grass. Even the animals don't have anything to feed on. And that's why sometimes they are forced to move with the animals to the neighboring districts. And they cannot even live herding animals, because if the ground does not produce food, what else do they have to survive on? They have to keep their cows. So if you were able to visit and see that, there's a difference between Karamoja and other regions. If you went to Teso, they will say, I'm poor. A household will say that I'm poor. But if you went to their garden, you'll find there is cassava on the garden. Yes. There are sweet potatoes on the garden. They have granaries. But in Karamoja, in some areas, some households don't have animals at all. They have been raided. They don't even have food, which you can say that somebody can host you. In fact, it's only Karamoja that I got that human beings can really sleep without eating. We visited a household which was feeding on gravy. They cut a skin, boil it, drink that gravy or soup, call it a day, and hang it for recycling, call it recycling or reprocessing. So when we talk of these children, in fact, I'm even very happy that they come to the city, because as you drive every day, they remind you that we have failed. Yeah, because how can we really be comfortable driving along the streets watching these children, and we are failing to find something better for them to do? Sometimes there was a program that we were in, we tried our best. One partner would collect them, convince them from here, another partner will transport them back to Karamoja, another partner will reunite them and resettle them, give also some package. But of course, we live in our own society. How sustainable is that? Yes, I really commend the work non-government organizations are doing, faith-based organizations are doing in Karamoja. I'm a member of church, a strong believer, and I know we have missions in Karamoja, so much we do. But how sustainable is this? Because we seem at one time when ADRA winds up, there won't be funds. So what sustainable solutions are you talking about that we say we have failed? Exactly. Because we have nature speaking, Okay, thank you so much for your question. The reason why I'm saying that sometimes we fail is, where do we design our programs? Sometimes we use the bottom-down approach. You get your funding from whichever organization, you come with it, you come to the district, say, I've got money from ABCD, we have come to implement this. You don't involve the intended beneficiaries in designing the program. Tell them what they want. It's not you to decide. If I'm sick and you are visiting me in hospital, don't bring matunda or splash, what have you. Possibly by the time you're interacting with me, I'll start telling you, I've tried even to take passion fruit, but I vomit as if I want to die. In fact, you'll be embarrassed. You'll start pushing away the side, what you have carried, because you possibly, if I even look at it, I'll vomit. Come and sit with me first. I talk to you, and then I will tell you that this is what I desire And then you go and bring what I desire. But if we don't involve the communities in designing what befits them, and we also involve the local government structures, that what is it that we should really do? Otherwise, these elitist programs always fail, and yet they have a lot of money.
Well, we'll go for a break, and when we return, we are still looking at social action to cause change in Karamoja sub-region. I have very interesting gentlemen. They have been in this region, they have done a lot of research, and they're very knowledgeable. We want to see, how do we end these challenges that I've seen many of these children on the streets of different cities in this country. We'll return shortly. Keep it with us.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra. Transact and win money after money with Airtel Money. 1.5 billion shillings in cash prizes up for grabs.
Nyombe Marusi Ronald, Ngazwarua, Mitolu Star, Alo Aro Toi, Hash, Mi Daily, Milo Airtime Ze, Mito Mi MB's data Ze, then Milo, Choti Milisu in the Banlu Sender Abalumi Kolu, customer can Lumi call, really, or many in the sender.
The more you transact, the higher your chances of winning. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
It's the festive season and we love it. And that means it's time to celebrate with GoTV.
Come with me.
So get your GoCoder and GoTV value for 25,000 shillings to watch with the whole family. And if you're feeling extra festive, upgrade to our best package yet, GoTV Super.
Something to look forward to.
Download the My GoTV app for more information.
Super.
We all deserve a super festive season. And with GoTV, there's every reason to love it.
Introducing the all-new Roofing's TMX 500C rebars with cut and bend surfaces. Roofing's, strength of a nation.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. We are still looking at action for social change in Karamoja. It is Good Morning Uganda Extra. Thank you so much for keeping it with us as we continue to see how best we can solve some of the challenges this region is facing. Well, before we went for that break, Chiweru, there's something you wanted to supplement on the issue of children. Before then, we can move on to another sector that requires urgent intervention in Karamoja sub-region.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I want our viewers to know that we are not saying that there is nothing we can do to stop the issue or the problem or the challenge of children living on the street, be it in Kampala, be it in Kotido, be it in Moroto. What is needed there is to have the interest of very many key players or interventions, but connected and teamed towards having a common solution. You can realize that Action for Social Change implemented by ADRA, we have realized that there are institutions which hold a lot of power and they are trusted by the local population, which can help in solving this problem. For example, we have mentioned the church. And when you go to Northern Karamoja and when you go to Kotido specifically, you will find out that the Catholic Church is a strong institution, well established, with a big following. And everywhere you go, you will not find a child on the street who is not coming from a home. And you will not find a home in which they don't ascribe to any faith. Therefore, I want to give you a vivid example here. In July this year, we managed to reunite 48 boys to their homes. And out of 48 boys, 38, they were coming from 38 households. And these households, their parents, they go to Catholic Church. Okay? And when the Reverend Father, with other church workers, hosted them in agape meal, they managed to dialogue with the parents. And parents, they themselves, they had to sit with their children and hear from them what causes them to go out. Many of us, we could assume it is just gender-based violence.
Poverty.
It is poverty. It is lack of food. But also you find that there is rewards for these boys to be on the streets. They can get, they can get money. They can beg around the supermarkets and people give them. All that is a pull factor. And when they go home to their villages, they will share with other boys. And those boys will join. Therefore, you find out that we need to look at it in a comprehensive manner. And that's why we are using advocacy and talking. I want to take you slightly out of this discussion. When we had these issues of HIV, at one time I worked with a program which was causing awareness on HIV with at-risk communities of along the islands. You find out that you go there and people ask, what have you brought for us? You tell them, I have come here to talk about this problem. I will do the talking until it gets to people's heads. I want to tell you, after a period of talking, people got the information. And Action for Social Change in Karamoja, we are doing the talking. And we make sure that we talk with whoever can hear. And we use all the institutions which have power to talk. The church will talk. Local government structures and offices will talk. Civil society organizations will talk until the message will be driven home. And that's what we call the social change. What is tricky, people should prepare themselves about, is the social change does not happen within a year, a week.
It's not instant.
It is not. It is something which should be built over and over and over. At a given time, people will have the message. And that's why we are not encouraging much of handouts, because they cause a lot of dependency.
Actually, in Kampala here, once we had a minister for, that was Honorable Nachiwala Chihinji.
Yes.
That is for youth and children. And she had proposed that let's come up with a law where giving these handouts becomes criminal to these street children. I don't know what James could say on that, because he seems to be, I saw him shake his head. James, what is your opinion on that?
You know, I mentioned it and I want to mention it again. One time we had come here, we were, I think, in the Minister of Gender boardroom with officials, and they mentioned the same. I said I mean, that is admitting that we have failed. Because, one, would you want them to die? Because even if you want them to leave the street, somebody has to give them money to board.
But if it's a pull factor, and then two, that is more convenient for them, maybe that's why they are coming at some point. Because there is better food, there is money, you buy clothes, you come back to the village as you're returning from another part of the world. So why not?
The good thing you say, you yourself are not only religious but Christian. The Bible says, blessed is the hand that giveth. There are some people who get their blessings from God by supporting the poor. How are you going to deprive somebody of his blessing? If it is you who has failed to resettle these children, so it's not my problem. In fact, I told them, you'll arrest me today, put me in prison. Tomorrow again, I come and get a child begging. I have some money to give them. I will still give. It doesn't matter whether you put me in detention for some days. And as long as the child has got something to eat for the day. That's why I disagree with that. But it really requires affirmative action, like William has just mentioned. we need a concerted effort. For example, if we are settling these children in their homes, it's not just a matter of carrying some Porsche or some beans and say we have brought these children back. It's also good to find out from the parents or from the household what really compelled these children to leave home. Because eventually they will eat whatever resettlement package they have been given, and when they start sleeping hungry, they start recalling the kind of life that they were living in the streets. And they will eventually what? Come back. Let's just, sometimes the problem with some of our program designs is we don't involve, like I said, we don't involve the communities, we don't involve the local partners, we don't even involve government, the local governments. Sometimes there are partners who come with a very good program. They have an inception meeting at the district, invite all the partners, and that's the end. The next time you are only driving past you, the next time...
Let's look at the element of education in all this. Yeah. Because we know education is one of the areas where you can have young children in school. Yes. Here in Kampala, maybe not so much in Karamoja. With the absence of education, schools being opened, we've registered a number of teenage pregnancies. Yeah. Just because these girls are not in school. How is the education factor an importance role in fighting all this? Because over here, government allocating billions into education to Karamoja. All when we look at the likes of you, non-government organization, ADRA among them, I'm aware you're into this education. Yes. What role has education played, Chiweru?
Yeah. Thank you very much. And in fact, if you look at education, I'm going to discuss it from having children home, not attending school. It has affected the whole country, but it has affected Karamoja more than anywhere else. I want to borrow from a real example, and it saddened me as a development worker, but at the same time as an educationist, because I'm a teacher by profession and a community development worker by practice. There is a school called Kamachariko Primary School. It is in Kathire South in Kabong, in Kamachariko Trading Center. We had this issue of lockdown on 16th of March 2020, but the pupils were in school. We have an approach whereby we are campaigning for increased enrollment, retention, and completion of primary school. Therefore, we follow the attendance, we follow the pupils who have completed, we follow the study itself at school. In P7, those who were meant to sit P7 2020 in the Kamachariko Primary School, there were 58 pupils. 58. Then we had the breakdown, the lockdown. Yeah. Then after the lockdown, they had to come and sit PLA. What was surprising in Kamachariko, it is on record, you can even go there. Only 9 people stand up.
Out of?
58. 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stand up. 9. And out of 9, only 2 were girls. Originally, the population of girls, when they were 9, when they were still 58 girls were men. How many?
No, I don't have that breakdown.
They were around 32. 22. 22. But 2 turned up. Where is the 20? You know? And out of 9, if you have 9 minus 2, you remain with?
I mean, minus 7, you only have 2 girls.
We have 2 girls, but the rest were boys out of 9. And then we got so concerned. How could that happen? We moved in the community with the inspector of school from the district of Kabong, and we started, involving, because we had a massive campaign before the sitting, calling them to come back to school so that they can sit for their PLA. But only 9 turned up. And then you find out that girls were married off. Boys joined the groups to do the raiding. You know, this raid, we mean...
Border?
No, stealing of animals.
Oh, cattle rustling.
Yeah, but rustling is sounds criminal.
So you call it raiding?
Yes.
Cattle raiding?
Yes. And then that's what happened. Therefore, you can imagine the school was keeping these girls, but when it is closed, but I'm mentioning only one school, Kamachariko. Only one school. Therefore, when people are talking about early pregnancies, they are talking about, in Karamoja, the impact is so great that it is really terrible. We need to have the schools open. If it means having them immunized, let that be done, and they are at school, because the school protects them from those who would be marrying them off. It protects them from the parents who want to get money out of the arranged marriages, but also those boys who lure them, because they are just their idol. And that is how it is. Yes.
James, yes, we know that the Interreligious Council is running a message of unity, aiming at reducing cattle raiding, as just read it for us, it's more of cattle rustling, but let's use that word, cattle raiding. How have you patterned? Has this yielded any fruit? Because we know when raids happen, apart from life injuries, theft of the animals, and now when you allude to boys joining this, this is detrimental in all aspects. So how was this campaign, you being partners with the Interreligious Council, yielded any fruit, if any?
You know, you said you are born again. There is calling somebody out of a criminal life, and they leave. But you have to do something for the person to forget that.
Criminal life?
Yeah. Because we cannot talk about unity when we are not talking about factors which create the disunity. For example, nobody wants to carry a gun, even the Karamojong themselves. They don't want to be carrying guns. But sometimes the raw deal that they get is they are disarmed, but then neighboring tribes from across, like the Turkana, they're not disarmed. Eventually they will come and raid their animals. And most invariably they are not recovered. So they feel it's a raw deal, and eventually they will start thinking, now how do we defend our own livestock from external raids? So if we don't look at those other factors that will make people more comfortable in their own households, in fact, we shall only be singing, spending money, holding crusades, but it will not yield effect. Let us look at addressing the root causes of these problems. I think that's the best that we can do. Let me come back to, I might eventually forget what we are doing with ADRA. ADRA actually engaged us to promote child rights, education, and we are using a multi-pronged approach. We are using what we call village education and rights committees, VACs, which are formed from the communities around each school, and we're working in 5 schools. So when we formed these were members of the PTA, SMC, community resource persons, or whatsoever, according to how the community identifies them. And we trained them and deployed them to go to the villages to mobilize children to come to school, to talk to the parents. And they did a very good job. Very good job. In fact, one thing I also came to realize is it's better to build the capacity of the people to be self-reliant, other than always keeping them. You keep giving them, they keep receiving, and eventually say, oh, they are relying on handouts. Who gives? If there is no hand giving, there will be no hand receiving. So, and to be honest, last time when we went around, I think last month, we realized that from our VEX, that the communities have come to appreciate the value of their children being in school as opposed to being at home. Because it is when they are at home now you have the highest number of pregnancies, marriages. So somehow they appreciate that when these children are at school, they are under some control. So when we build them, when we change their perception and mindset to come to appreciate education, it will make even our work easier. You get me? So the most important thing that we ought to do, or like you are saying, these handouts. By the way, this is not anybody, no community member introduced this concept of giving handout, these words called over, out of pocket, sitting allowance. It is those with the money who introduced it. And now that they have embraced it, again we are saying, no, it's bad. Who is worse? The person who introduced it in the first place.
Because the only thing I think with handouts is they're not sustainable.
We
have to empower communities.
Yeah.
We have to empower communities. But also, one of the problems I have with NGOs and some of these organizations, mostly in Karamoja sub-region, you know, they seem to be looking at the dire state of these people and think that handouts are a solution. You know, the NGOs have come up with the giving syndrome. Many of them, if you look at, even here in Kampala, people are invited for a sensitization workshop on something that is beneficial to them.
Exactly.
But there must be an allowance to sign at the end of the day. So today, even when an NGO comes with something very productive, the first question that will come to our minds is, there must be an allowance.
Exactly.
So this seems to be your culture of doing things.
Yeah.
Can I respond to that?
Okay.
You have hit it spot on. I think last week when somebody came from to Kotido and asked me that question, why is it that with all the billions of money that is pouring in Karamoja, there is no impact? The time was short. But if you would ask me that same question, I would also ask you, why is it that with the proliferation of churches all over, we have higher levels of social injustice, more crime and what have you? The truth, like you have mentioned, is it depends on what makes you start that organization. If you have passion for that, well and good. But just like churches, there are some persons who start churches, they don't believe in God, but they use God and the Bible for earning a living. So it's also possible, there are also NGOs who don't believe in social transformation, but they want the communities to continue suffering so that they have an opportunity for receiving donor money. And that's why I realized that the districts in Karamoja have now taken a step further to form NGO monitoring committees.
Good.
And also to strengthen the sector working groups. You know, like I mentioned, sometimes some organizations just come and introduce themselves, but they don't even involve the local government. They don't know what they are doing. At the end of it, they only invite them to come and share the evaluation report. After 3 years, the best evidence you can get of the existence of that organization is merely a signpost. And like I said, if we don't design these programs together with the local communities, if we don't work through the local NGOs, the element of community sense of responsibility and ownership and sustainability will be lost.
That is why when these NGOs wind up their work,
and that's the end of the project.
It seems like they have never existed in these areas. Well, time is not so much on our side. We have to create room for another show that is coming on. But let me have your final remarks, beginning with Chiberu. So much seems to have been done. Maybe it could not be in tandem. That has been achieved on ground. But what should be the way forward?
The way forward, I would suggest, and what we are looking at currently, is to work with the local structures. When you look at how we are working with Interreligious Council, Uganda, and the religious institutions, you find out that if anybody is asking for an allowance to come in the meeting, nobody will ever ask that to a religious setting or sitting. When you have Muslims on Friday for prayer, nobody will ask for transport to come to the mosque, neither seating allowance in the mosque. So will be the Adventist Church, the Catholic, the Protestants, and whoever. And by embracing them and we bring them on board to communicate for social change, you find out that it is safe there. But also, we should have programs that this serialization of interventions by civil society organization is wrong. And that's why you find that the district NGO boards bring us together and we know who is doing what and where. So that there is linkages. So that what you are not supporting, somebody else will do support that. But also we find that in Karamoja there is strong village saving and loan associations. Instead of handouts, If such are encouraged, they do serial banking, they do seed bank, so that they can have something they can do than getting money and they just burn it. That can be sustainable than anything else.
Well, yes. I love the issue of financial aid, not in terms of handouts, but in terms of creating and empowering the communities themselves to be able to save, to be able to share between their savings productivity. Well, finally getting your final remarks, that is James, in as far as regarding socio-economic transformation of Karamoja sub-region.
Number one, let us use the bottom-up approach to development. Number two, development partners must also recognize us, we the local partners, as meaningful partners. One, sometimes you find a donor gives you money to run a project for 1 or 2 years, and at the end of it, they're asking for the impact of that project. They're forgetting that the first 1, 2, 3 months will be like inception activities, setting up office, recruiting staff, all those kind of things. You'll find that within that year, you may be implementing for only 9 months, and you're asking for impact. It would be good if donors would give partners funds that could run a project for 3 to 5 years minimum. That's when you can really realize impact.
Well, he who pays the piper determines the tune.
No, that's one of the challenges we have.
These monies come when they know what they want them to do.
Exactly.
They not what you want the money to
and
be
that
used
is what
for.
I call dependency syndrome. They depend on the suffering of the communities in order to get funds to employ their brothers, sisters, and in-laws, and also improve on their own livelihoods. Number two, meaning like ADRA is doing, inclusion of the local partners in the implementation of that program, so that by the time you are facing out, there is a partner that will continue with that project. Even if you come after 2, 3 years, there can be mention of that project, that this is what it's doing. And then, of course, sometimes we also ought to have shared goals and objectives between us, the partners. Because, for example, you may want to come up, like right now we have food shortage, acute food shortage in Karamoja. That's one thing that I should not forget to mention. Now, assuming you come with your money at this time when people don't have money, I mean food, and then you say you have come to implement a sanitation program, you want the communities to dig pit latrines, first of all, they'll ask you, give us something to put in the stomach first, so that we shall have something to drop into the pit. So sometimes, like you're saying, they come with their own programs and they say implement it the way they are.
Finally,
and then
please,
also,
in the interest of time.
Yeah. Strengthen and functionalize the local government structures. The departments, the department heads, these NGO monitoring committees, so that they can be able to really bring all partners together. Share work plans and budgets with the districts, so that they can know how much money is coming into their districts and into which sectors. They can be able to identify areas of gaps and avoid duplication of services. Yes, only that.
Well, I want to thank you so much, gentlemen. A very interesting point that Oluport has hinted on, which is duplication. You go to some districts, there are about 1,000 NGOs doing the same thing. And when you assess impact, nothing tangible is there. I want to thank you so much. We've been with, that is James Peter Oluport, who is the Executive Director of Karamoja Integrated Development Program that works along with ADRA Foundation, that is the Adventist Development and Relief Agencies, aiming at ensuring there is socio-economic transformation of Karamoja. And I've been with George William Chiberu with the Program Manager, Northern Karamoja, that is in ADRA Foundation. I want to thank you so much, gentlemen, and we hope that what we've been discussing has been captured by those that will ensure there's value for money, but there's also transformation, and the bottom-to-up approach is what is used in Karamoja. Have a lovely day. God bless you. Let's all be concerned about this region, because at the end of the day, these are Ugandans. And we've seen street children in every part of this country. It's time to act now to save the next generation. God bless you.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.